Hey, Gary, think we have time for one more?
Yeah, what else have you got for us?
Well, let's see. Okay, you guys know what a premonition is, right?
Sure, it's that funny feeling you get when you just know something awful is about to happen.
But you're not sure exactly what.
That's right. When you have a premonition, or a nightmare, or even a vision that something bad is about to happen, it's hard to totally get it out of your mind. Especially when something from that nightmare keeps coming back to haunt you. An image, or even a sound. A mushy, squishing sound. Like the sound of wet snow.
This sounds good.
Submitted for the approval of the Midnight Society. I call this story The Tale of the Strange Snowman. The wind whistled in a field of blinding white. Ben stumbled and tried to run. Something was after him. Something evil. It slid towards him with a wet, slushing sound. The wind grew to a shriek as it came closer. It was almost on top of him. But it didn't want him after all. It wanted something else. It wanted... Ben was jolted out of his nightmare. It was his dorky kid brother Eli bouncing up and down on his bed. "Hey, look outside," he yelled, pointing at the window. "Look at all the snow." Sure enough, when Ben looked out at the front yard, he could hardly recognize it. It looked like the entire world was covered in a thick blanket of dazzling white. The two boys ran down to the kitchen, where their mom was listening to the radio. "Sorry, guys," she said with a smile, before they could ask. "School's still on, but if you could spare 10 minutes, I'd love it if you could clear the walk." The two boys headed outside with their shovels. Eli got right to work, but Ben was bored and started chucking snowballs at him. Eli gathered up snow to throw one back, but then he stopped, cocking his head. With a strange expression, he stared at the driveway, which curved out of sight. "There's something over there," he said, "and it's watching us." Ben laughed. "Yeah, right. You really think I'm gonna fall for that one?" "I mean it," said Eli. His voice sounded odd, and Ben suddenly had an unpleasant flash. His nightmare. What was it? Something was after him. Something that made a wet, sliding noise. But Eli had already dropped his shovel and was running down the driveway towards the street. Ben caught up with him. Then he saw what Eli was looking at. "You dork," he said. "It's only a snowman." But it wasn't only a snowman. It was gigantic, at least 6 feet tall. An old hat sat on its head. It had black rock eyes and a rotten hooked carrot for a nose. Whoever built it had put it right in the middle of the street, too, where anyone could just run over it. But what was so weird about it? "Where'd it come from?" Eli said suddenly. And Ben knew what he meant. Someone had obviously built it during the night, but there were no footprints, and no gouged out places where the snow should have been dug up. The snow all around it was completely untouched. "Something's wrong," said Eli. He sounded odd. "Can you feel it? It wants something. Or somebody." Ben glanced at his little brother. Eli always had a weird way of knowing stuff. Secrets people had, or where missing things could be found. But this was just a snowman after all. He was about to say they should just head in, when Eli suddenly grabbed the shovel and began smacking the snowman with it. Ben grabbed the shovel back. "Hey, take it easy," he said. "You're cracking up." From the front door, their mom was calling to them to get ready for school. Eli didn't seem to hear. He stared up at the snowman, his jaw slack. The snowman's head now had a big dent in it and was pushed back in a crazy angle so that it seemed to be staring down at him. For a second, Ben could swear something flashed in those dead eyes. A violent shiver suddenly ran through Eli. "I don't feel so hot," he muttered. Ben dragged his brother inside and told their mom he'd gotten chilled or something. She took Eli's temperature and gasped. It was 4 degrees below normal. Before Ben left for school, he peeked into Eli's room. He was already in bed, shivering, covered with a pile of blankets. When Ben came home from school, the snowman had vanished. At first he was relieved, but something nagged at him. How could it just disappear? Like before, there weren't any tracks or anything. Just fresh, untouched snow. That night, Eli was even worse than before. His temperature was now almost 10 degrees below normal. "The doctor's on his way," Ben's mom told him grimly. "I'm going down the street to borrow a portable heater from the Hoffmans." As soon as the door closed, Ben had an idea. Maybe it would help if he could just get Eli into a tub of hot water. Why not? He ran into the bathroom and turned on the faucets. He stood there watching the running water. And then he heard something out in the hall. Quickly, he shut off the water and listened. There it was. A slushy sliding noise. Mom? There was no answer. The shuffling came closer and closer. It paused on the other side of the door. Ben kept going. Ben let out his breath. He was safe. For now. But somewhere down the hall, a doorknob rattled. A door creaked open and shut. Cautiously, Ben crept out of the bathroom. A long trail of water ran straight down the front hall and towards his brother's room. Ben went to the door, grabbed the handle, and jerked back. It was icy cold, but he forced himself to grab it again and pull the door open. Inside, freezing winds were howling. Ben only barely noticed that the windows were shut, for towering in the middle of the room was a snowman. It cradled Eli in its blackened tree branch arms. Eli, still asleep, was shivering. His face was turning blue, and his teeth chattered. "Let him go!" screamed Ben. Slowly, the snowman turned towards Ben. Its twig mouth was curled upwards in a terrible smile, made crooked by a huge dent still visible on its forehead. It dropped Eli back onto his bed, then started to slide across the floor towards Ben. Ben hauled off and hit the snowman as hard as he could, and it was worse than plunging his hand into ice water. The cold seared his entire arm like fire. Ben stumbled out into the hall. He ran to the bathroom and slammed the door behind him. But almost immediately, there was a wet thud. The snowman was forcing its way in. The door flew open with a crash. The snowman stood there, its black eyes gleaming, then slid forward onto the terry bath mat. Ben cowered. There was nowhere to go. In desperation, he grabbed the bath mat and yanked it upwards as hard as he could. The mat came out from under the snowman, tilted it over, and toppled it backwards into the tub of hot water. Clouds of frosty mist billowed up, and the snowman let out a terrible scream. As it thrashed around, the water churned in great waves, and to Ben's horror, it started to ice over. Ben grabbed the shower faucet and turned. Scalding water suddenly sprayed down into the tub. The scream rose in pitch, and the creature tried desperately to pull itself out. But it was too late. Its screams grew fainter and fainter as the evil mass of ice melted to nothingness. "What's happening?" said a voice. Eli was standing in the doorway in his pajamas, looking confused. His face wasn't blue anymore. It was back to its healthy, normal pink. "Man," he said, "what's Mom trying to do with the blankets? Boil me to death." Ben looked down into the bath. All that was left was a hat and a carrot down at the bottom of the tub, and a pair of glittering black stones that stared up with cold, calculating rage.
That was great, Gary. Look, I've got goosebumps.
Me too. I think it was the image of that snowman hugging that kid in his arms.
Glad you liked it. And to you guys listening, I'm really glad you could join us.
Yeah, hope you guys got as creeped out as we did.
Speaking of creeped out, I'm off for heading home. Anyone joining me?
I will.
Me too.
See you next time.